Okay, greetings everyone and welcome to the Black Book Show at Auntie Jean's African Culture Market online. I'm Makonnen Sankofa. I am the host of the Black Book Show. As well as being the host of the Black Book Show, I am author of the books Life in Gambia, The Smiling Coast of Africa, How to Market and Sell Your Book, A Guide for Beginners, and The Rise of Rastafari, Resistance, Redemption, and Repatriation. Now, for those who haven't witnessed one of the Black Book shows before, the Black Book Show is a platform that's been running for over 3 years now, and it happens each month. It's on the last Sunday of each month. And how the show goes in terms of the format, there's a variety of authors of African heritage that come on the platform to talk about their book. Most authors get 15 minutes or 10 minutes, and we have authors who talk about a variety of different topics. Some authors may be in UK, authors in USA. I have authors sometimes in Africa, the Caribbean. I've had authors in Canada, Australia. So it is an international platform, and we also have an international audience as well. So you're watching via Zoom. This event is also on Facebook Live, Black Culture Radio, and it will be put up onto P English Literature YouTube channel after the show, as well as it's broadcasted on the DAB island. Now, over the last 3 years of hosting the Black Book Show, I'm proud to say that I've had 300 authors of African heritage from around the world, as well as 300 authors of African heritage. I've also had some booksellers and publishers that have featured on the Black Book Show. So without any further ado, I'm going to go on to the first speaker. This evening, well, I'm based in England. I know we have authors based in different parts of the world. The author that I'm going to introduce is in the United States of America. It's Anthony Brogdon. Anthony Brogdon, he's been on the Black Book Show before. So welcome back onto the Black Book Show, Anthony. I would just like you to start first by, introducing yourself very briefly, and then go on to, to tell us about the book that you've written. And obviously tell us where you're based as well, what state.
Okay, everybody, hello around the world. Thank you again for having me on your fabulous broadcast. I am Anthony Brogdon. I am out of Detroit, Michigan, Midwest, United States of America, home of Motown music, home of the American automobiles, and home of Motown, and home of thousands of beautiful brothers and sisters who have come here and have made a difference in this community. I'm a positive thinker, and that is the way I try to structure my life, and how I've tried to structure the book that I have written. I'm a historian. I talk about Black history, but from a positive perspective. And in particular, I talk about Black business and the rise of Black business in America. And one of the things that I really focus in on, that is maybe a little known fact, is that there were enslaved African Americans here in the United States who owned businesses. And what I mean by that is they were able, through the cooperation of the enslaver, to operate a business, to make money from that business, giving the enslaver some part of those profits, those proceeds. And then in some instances, they were able to use those profits to buy their freedom. And when I luckily ran across that aspect, it blew my mind, because I was never taught that in school. And so what I decided to do initially was, in 2017, I released a documentary. It's titled Business in the Black, which examines the rise of Black business in America. And it talks about many people, it's like 20 of them or so, that were enslaved, that were able to buy their freedom. And then, once free, became very wealthy. And these are stories many, many years before, as what we would say, the first Black billionaire being Madam C.J. Walker. I took the movie to 40 cities across America to overwhelming response. And then I got the suggestion that I write a book on this topic. And this is the book. It's titled Black Business Book, which has over 200 facts. There are 28 slave-owned businesses that I chronicle in this book. I tell you how they were able to operate that business, what they did, how much money they made, and how wealthy they became later in life. But it doesn't stop there. I tell you how slaves were able to gain an education, because in many respects, it was frowned upon by the enslaved community. The enslaved had to put their life on the line. And I give you examples of schools that they attended that other Black people helped operate, and or that was not the case. I tell you about universities that they attended, so on and so forth. I tell you all the ways that slaves in America gained their freedom. And there are several that we don't really talk about. One being is that there were instances that they sued for their freedom and won in court. And there are numbers of examples of that. There are other ways, again, like I said earlier, of those being able to buy their freedom and so on and so forth. I talk about what the federal government did once slavery ended to help kind of make things a little bit more even and give a footing for Black people, which was called that Reconstruction period. I tell you, all that happened there. I go on to tell you again, with the federal government, some of the things that they did to destroy the Black business community. And one of them that I highlight, it's a chapter on, is that they built freeways through many Black business districts across America. They did that here in my town, Detroit, went right through what we called our Black Bottom district. I identify at least 50 of those cities that freeways came in and destroyed those Black business districts. And then I go up to about the 1960s, and I tell you about businesses such as the first Black company that was on the US Stock Exchange. And because I end in 1960, and I'm a Detroiter, I end with the history of Motown music and how great that gentleman, Berry Gordy, and his team developed the Motown sound that is still prevalent in American society today. And so I put all this in a very simple format. I don't give you no commentary. I let the fact stand on its own merit. And so that makes it easy to read. And then I number the fact so that you can cross-reference to the section in the back so that you can look up where I found the fact and do more research on it. So I make it real easy. It's readable for most all ages. I would say probably, kids as young as 10 years old and older adults as old as who want to know this, what I like to call good Black history, good positive Black history. It's going to inspire you like none other to know that despite the situation of enslavement, civil rights, Jim Crow, that there were Black people who fought through that to become very wealthy. Give an example. There's one guy that I chronicle who was enslaved. He worked on the horse and buggies during that time period. Slavery ended. He got his freedom. He opened up a business, still doing horse and buggies. He had a son that he sent to a university. Son came and worked in the company, and then they owned a car manufacturing company. This is 1905, that competed against Henry Ford and became very wealthy people. There are other instances. I'll give you one more. There was a guy who was what we would affectionately call the potato king of America. He had over 500 acres and he grew over 700,000 of bushels potatoes per year. Owned a 22-room mansion. Very wealthy gentleman that a lot of people don't know of. His name is Julius Groves. There's another gentleman who is considered the founder of San Francisco, a major city here in America, a metropolis. But when he got there, he became so wealthy working with the Mexican government, they gave him in a grant process over 35,000 acres. He had homes, he had other businesses, and did so much for that community that he is acknowledged today, over 100 and some odd years later, as the founder of San Francisco. His name is William Leesdorf. And those are just a few of the amazing stories that I tell you about in this book. And so I invite you to get a copy. The book is available on Amazon in America. It's an ebook on Amazon in Europe and an ebook on Amazon in Canada. And we're working to try to get it as any way possible on Amazon in Africa, throughout the continent. But you can find more information about me and all that I do on my website, which is businessintheblack.net. Businessintheblack.net. Because if you are in business, you want to be in the black. This is one of those many instances where being in the black is right. They can't tell you otherwise. Being in the black means that you are profitable. And so that's why I titled my website businessintheblack.net. The book is titled Black Business Book. And let me leave you one more thought. It has become America's #1 Black business history book. There is no other book like this one. Not this thorough, not this easy to read. And it includes a ton of quotes by famous African Americans and some pictures that will blow your mind of successful Black people. Even in slavery, they found a way to make it for so many others. And then they've left that legacy, as I've chronicled in my book, for the generations to come to know how far we have gone in the past to set the floor for us in today's society. So I thank you so very much. I don't know if that's my time. I can keep going on because I got a lot of things doing. I'll leave you with one more thought. In the next 2 months, I have a movie that will be out titled They Did It, which is based upon this book. I gotta get this information out to the world for you to know how great Black people are, despite what they tried to put us under. You could not hold all of us back. And this book tells you those instances, so many of them, and the things that they tried to do. So I invite you to get a copy. And one more thing, it is very reasonably priced. Very reasonably priced, because I want the masses of people from all economic status to be able to get you a copy of America's #1 Black business history book. It's titled Black Business Book. And I thank you again to my brothers and sisters around the world in the diaspora. Thank you for allowing me and listening to me. Follow me on my website, which also includes information about a show that I have titled Strong Inspirations, because I'm getting this out to you one way or another, straight, no chaser, my brothers and my sisters. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. That was author Anthony Brogdon, author of the book Black Business Book. He's just showing the cover there. Over 200 facts with emphasis on the history of Black business in America, 1800s to 1960. We actually shared his film. You've got two documentaries. Is it 2 or 3? No, you've got Detroit, then you've got the one on Black business, then you've got this new one which is coming out, which is free. So we did a screen share of one of the documentaries. I must say we may have to do it again because it was a really, really good emphasis on Black businesses in America. But we'll speak again. It's a pleasure to have you on the Black Book Show. I look forward to also having you on my radio show and podcast, and also be featuring on your podcast, because you do have a podcast, Strong Inspirations. Do you want to take a minute to just tell them about the podcast that you've got on YouTube?
Yes, I will. Thank you. Hey, man, first of all, let me commend you for your efforts, for getting this word out to these authors across the world of what we're trying to do is educate the populace. Now, my show is called Strong Inspirations. It's hosted on YouTube. I have over 450 videos, including our host, who talked about his book on the Rastafari community. But I have people from all over the world. I do mine, again, also via Zoom, where we talk about all forms of Black history, from what happened in Africa, the various countries, to what happened in Australia, to what has happened in America, and everything in between that. I interview these people and allow them to tell the story and then just ask a few, let me say, intelligent questions maybe, so that we can understand this history of ours. And I take a positive perspective on it. So again, strong inspirations on YouTube. I always look for people to interview, so authors who have Black history books or people who have stories. And here, thank you so much.
What I'm going to do, Anthony, is ask you to please put the details, the information in the Zoom chat. So if you please put the details of your book and your YouTube channel in the Zoom chat. All right, let me go on to the next author. The next author is Armand Gonzalzles. Armand, if you would like to come on, please start by introducing yourself, telling us where you're based, and then tell us, all about the book you've written.
I'm Armand Gonzalzles, a retired physician, live in New Orleans, Louisiana. And Louisiana is the southeastern United States. I wrote a book about my great aunt, Catherine Magnolia Johnson. And Catherine Magnolia Johnson was born in 1878 in a little town called Longtown, Ohio. She was one of 8 children, and she went to Wilberforce University in 1898 and graduated with a bachelor's degree in education and science in 1902. Catherine's parents were free. They weren't enslaved. One was named Jane Lucinda McCowan Johnson. Her grandfather rather, was from Edinburgh, Scotland. And her father was Walter Johnson, and he was not an ex-slave, but his parents were slaves. And so Catherine was born in 1878. Her father, Walter, died 4 months after her birth, which really kind of encouraged her to go on and do some great things in her life. When the father died, the fathers were very important. They were responsible for educating the children back then, not just for working, not just for tending the farm and taking care of the buildings and that kind of thing, but they had quite a few responsibilities back in the old days. 10 years after her father died, Jane Lucinda, her mother, remarried, but this time she married a man of much darker complexion than Catherine's biological father, and as a result, all of her brothers and sisters left the home because they just didn't want to be associated with a father of that complexion. This kind of taught Catherine a big lesson in life. It showed her that even in the Black community, there was a color line. And this kind of set the path for her entire life. So Catherine goes to Wilberforce, she graduates, she gets a job teaching in Darke County because there were no other places that she could teach. America back then, of course, was quite segregated with Jim Crow and other Black code laws not allowing for education, library accessibility, nothing at all back then. So Catherine teaches at Darke County until 1906. In 1905, she goes to a reunion at Wilberforce University, and one of her professors asked her to take the position of Dean of Women at Shorter College in Arkansas, in Little Rock, Arkansas. This is 1906. 2 weeks after she gets there, the Argenta race riot breaks out, and this is the first time she experiences the violence of racism. And she writes about that in her diary. And I would have to say that that particular chapter in the book is probably the most moving because she describes it in such detail, with all the horrors that one can imagine that occurred during these race riots. She finishes her contract, but during the interim, her mother dies. And this kind of destroys her in a sense, doesn't destroy her, but puts her in a state of grief. And she does finish her contract at Charter College, and she moves on to a high school in Kansas City, Kansas, Sumner High School. And this is 1907, and the state of Kansas had just passed a law segregating the high schools in Kansas. But she has another problem. The principal of the high school, Sumner High School, is kind of a ladies' man, but he starts to abuse and take leave with some of the young girls at the high school. So Catherine complains to the chairman of the Board of Education for Sumner, for the city of Kansas, and after complaining that this man is abusing or attempting to abuse these young Black girls, the head of the Board of Education fires Catherine, doesn't fire the principal, and tells Catherine that all Black men are like this, so what difference does it make? Even if we hire another Black principal, he's going to do the same thing. Well, this same man goes on to become president of Langston University in Oklahoma in 1916. And in fact, W.E.B. Du Bois was on the search committee and had written Catherine several letters asking them about this particular individual. Catherine explained what happened at Sumner, but he ends up being hired anyway. 1910, Catherine's still in Kansas, but now she's working with the YMCA. In fact, she is one of the founders of the YMCA in Kansas. There were no YMCAs that Black people could go to back then, 1906, 1907. So Catherine, who really didn't like separate but equal, and didn't like separate or segregation at all, and didn't believe that Black people should have separate facilities. But she felt that either you had a separate facility or no facility at all. So Catherine developed one of the first Black YMCAs in the country in 1907. 1910, she gets the first issue of the Crisis magazine. The NAACP, of course, starts in 1909, started by Mary White Ovington, W.E.B. Du Bois, and several others, quite a few others, in fact. And she is moved by this magazine to the point that she becomes the first field agent for the NAACP in 1911. And she worked spreading not only the subscriptions for the Crisis magazine, but she opened up quite a few branches for the NAACP in the southern states of the United States back then. She worked for them from 1911 to 1916. 1917, she is volunteering for the YMCA, and that's, of course, when Woodrow Wilson decides to get into World War I. And so Catherine volunteers as a secretary for the YMCA in World War I France. Of course, the welfare workers that were sent to France, the white welfare workers, would not take care of the Black troops. And so Catherine and two other Black welfare workers were responsible for nearly 40,000 Black troops in World War I. She does this for something like 19 months. And then she also started an education program for the Black troops in World War I France. It was so successful that the U.S. Army modeled their education system after her. And a lot of the Black troops couldn't write their names because many were farmers. And of course, understanding that it was against the law to teach the Black troops how to read or write, or teach Black people how to read or write at all during slavery. There were no facilities for them to learn. And so Catherine taught them during their time in France to a point that they could now, instead of signing their checks with an X, they could write their names. Catherine returns to the U.S. In 1919. NAACP then recruits her to develop a protest for the movie Birth of a Nation that was about to be shown at the Capitol Theater in New York City. So this is 1920. Catherine, in fact, does develop or organizes a protest, and the movie is canceled. But during the protest, Catherine is arrested. She ends up going to jail, and the NAACP legal team gets her out. At this point, Catherine decides that because there are no facilities, libraries, or schools of any significant nature in most Black areas, Catherine decides to become the first Black bookmobile, and she develops what she calls the 2-foot shelf of Negro literature. She drives all over the country selling this 14-book shelf for $25. So Catherine does this from 1920 to about 1934. At this point, she and a lady by the name of Azella Mathis Carter buy a home in Chicago at 4506 Prairie Avenue in Chicago, Illinois. And they open the home up to Black women who are moving north to finish their education. They didn't have any place to stay, so Catherine and Azella opened up this home for them to live in. In 1940, Catherine runs for Congress, and I believe she was the first Black woman to actually do so. She runs in the 1st Congressional District of Illinois, the same district that Barack Obama won, rather lost, before he became a senator from Illinois. So Catherine had quite a few, not just first, but she was also involved with some very famous African-American activists, people like Paul Robeson, Richard Wright, Langston Hughes, W.E.B. Du Bois. During the Spanish Civil War, they got together and sent an ambulance over to Spain to help the rebellion. So Catherine wasn't just, let's say, an activist in her own right and just in the United States. She was international. She also helped Haile Selassie during the Italian invasion of Ethiopia back in the 1930s. So Catherine had quite a few firsts. Now, Catherine never married, didn't have children, but she did have some love interest, and some of her letters speak to that. She was engaged from 1908 to 1917 to a fellow who happened to develop tuberculosis, and so Catherine and this man never got married. In fact, he died before they could do so. So that was Catherine. Very few people know of her, and but I think she had quite a role in the civil rights movement in her own particular way. During her time as NAACP field agent, she had to hide in basements and other areas in the South to prevent being, of course, captured by the white supremacist groups, specifically the Ku Klux Klan. So that is Catherine's story. And the book is available on Amazon. It also has quite a few pictures from World War I and documents and other information about some of other Catherine's exploits. And that was the book. Any questions at all?
Thank you very much. That was Armand Gonzalzles. I also recently interviewed him. Before actually I mentioned about the podcast you featured on, can you just hold up the book, please? Can you just hold it up just for, yeah, just hold it up there just for a moment, just for the people in the audience, just so they can have a look at it. Catherine Magnolia Johnson. Okay, so what I would like you to do is please put the links to where the book can be purchased in the Zoom chat.
Okay.
And also one more time, just for the people listening on Black Culture Radio, where that book can be purchased from.
It can be purchased from Amazon. And there are a couple of editions. This is the second edition. It's kind of revised. As with many writers, I put too much in the book initially, so I had to take some things out. But that's where it can be found on Amazon.
And that book title, Catherine Magnolia
Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've just shared my screen now. So I'm showing you the Black Book Show Facebook group. If you haven't already joined the Black Book Show Facebook group, simply go on Facebook and search the Black Books Show. You'll know you've come to the right place when you can see a picture of this logo, the Black Book Show. And you'll be able to, see the Facebook group where, the latest information regarding the Black Book Show is displayed. My virtual book tours and also updates for the radio show and podcasts, which I do as well. Now, I'm just going to show you the Black Book Show's website. So if you go onto the website, www.blackbookshows.com, or simply blackbookshows.com, there is a range of different options on the top here in this section. Now, the different options on the menu, the option that I want to point out here is July 2023 speakers list. So if you were to click July 2023 speakers list, it shows you the authors. Some have spoken and some will be about to speak later on, featuring on the Black Book Show this episode, and the links to where their books are available to be purchased from as well. And I'll leave these on the website after the show. So the authors, for those that are on Zoom, the authors will put their links in the Zoom chat. If you're listening via Black Culture Radio, the authors will of course mention where their book's available to be purchased from. But if you go on to blackbookshows.com and go onto July 2023 speaker list, it has the range of all the authors with the links to where their books are available. So for example, the last author that we heard was Armand Gonzalzles. If I just hover over him and click this link, it will then take you to the Amazon page where you can see his book, which is available in paperback and Kindle. The other thing I want to point out, Armand Gonzalzles, I recently interviewed him on the Black Book Show podcast. So on the Black Book Show website, there's also an option which says podcast interviews. If you click onto podcast interviews and scroll down to the bottom, there's this part where it says, click this link to listen to other previous podcasts. And there's a variety of different authors. Many of them have been onto the virtual book tour. This is the Black Book Show virtual book tour. There's also the Black Books, the radio show and podcast. I present on radio every other Monday, Luton Urban Radio, between 8 and 10 p.m. UK time, and every other Saturday on Galaxy Radio between 6 and 8 p.m. All of the authors that are interviewed on those stations, their interviews get uploaded onto the Black Book Show podcast. So various of the different authors, you can listen to the playback. Say Armand Gonzalzles was the last author he spoke. He's on episode 50 of the Black Book Show. We've got Bernice Gayle, who's going to be speaking later. She's on episode 49. And a variety of authors that have featured on the Black Book Show. They are also on the Black Book Show podcast. That's when I do an interview with the authors, which is a bit more in-depth and interactive with them. If you would like to feature on the Black Book Show, either the radio show and podcast or the virtual book tour as your author, feel free to contact me on the website. There's a section which says contact us. if you go on to contact us and fill in the contact form and just leave a message saying that you displaying your interest of being on the Black Book Show, and I'll get back to you. Alternatively, you can send an email to info@blackbookshows.com. That is info@blackbookshows.com. I will put that in the Zoom chat as well. Right, I'm going to go on to the next author now. The next author is Imani Ulaini. Imani, please come on to the Black Book Show. I welcome you. Please, would you start by telling us, an introduction, who you are, telling us where you're based, and then tell us, all about the books you've written.
Okay, hi, Brother McCannon. Thank you for letting me come on your show. My name's Imani Ulaini. I'm based in London. And brief introduction about me. In 2017, I started to volunteer at the Black Cultural Archives in Brixton. I don't know if any of you are aware of that venue. And I shortly heard about a Black History course, which I had been looking for. So I did Robin Walker's African History course, Black Studies course, and that just knocked me upside my head, shifted my center of gravity, turned me around 360 degrees, and caused me to really focus on our history and who we are as a people. And from that, so I did every level of the course, and then I still wanted more. So I then went and did a master's with Professor Hakeem Addy. I don't know if any of you have heard, he's in the news currently because University of Chichester have pulled his course. So that's causing a lot of controversy. So I'm now doing my PhD. Well, I was doing my PhD with him, but obviously we're fighting this case. So that turned me around to Black history and understanding, the journey, going on the journey of who we are as a people. And during lockdown 2020, I'm quite a spiritual person. I had a sense of something ominous, something strange happening, something racial. I didn't know what it was. And I really felt a need for a safe space. So this is April 2020. And I won't go into the story now, but what happened is I thought about Mr. Men stories. And I thought, what if we had Mr. Men for that featured African heritage and culture? So I started to write. I wrote my first one in April 2020. And then the following month, we had the George Floyd situation. And so I knew, that was partly why I had to create somewhere to feel safe. So what I did, I created, I'm going to share my screen, Brother McCannon.
Yeah, that's fine. It's enabled for you to share screen, so you should be able to do it.
Okay. So can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
So I created a fictional island, as you can see, it's in the shape of an ankh called Talawa, which is a Jamaican word. Well, it's probably a Twi word from Ghana, meaning little but strong. So in my imagination, I wanted to honor the Middle Passage. And so this island, Talawa, in my imagination, was created from the fossilized remains of our ancestors who had perished during the Middle Passage. And in my imagination, those ancestors protected the island from outside invasion. So I'll show you the first book that I did, which was this one. And this is Uncle Big Bowl. Now, Uncle Big Bowl's a greedy fellow, he's always running around stealing food, basically. And in this book, I introduced the concept of eldership. This is Talawa, this is part of Talawa. This is Uncle Big Bowl. He's been to a party, and people bring their containers and take food. He just brings his big bowl, takes all the food. There was a jollof rice festival. Uncle was first in the queue. He took all the jollof rice, and everybody else just got a teaspoon, and they weren't happy. So, as you can imagine. So I introduced the concept of eldership. So the elders meet and they decide to teach Uncle a lesson. And in the end, so I'm just quickly flicking through, this is Elder Nkrumah. So I'm constantly introducing words and concepts. Uncle Nkrumah says, you need to learn how to share. And that's the principle of Ubuntu. So Yeah, I won't tell you what happens in the whole story, but he learns his lesson and he starts sharing lovely things for in the community. So then that's Uncle Big Bowl. I'll show you my second book. This is Auntie Vexer. This is an auntie, and we can all relate. She's always annoyed, she's always vexed. We don't necessarily know why, but she's a very miserable auntie. She lives on Vexation Lane. Her house is in the shape of a V. Anyway, one day, you can see here, Auntie Tiny Whiny and Auntie Sugar Boom Boom invite her to a jonkonu, which is an old word for, like a carnival, but it's an old African concept, old African word. And she tells them to basically to go away. She wasn't interested. She said, speak to the hand. And it's written in some Jamaican patois. Not all of the characters are necessarily Jamaican, but they're from some of the islands, and they've all joined together on this particular island. So she's very annoyed. She's not going to this carnival. And so I introduce again the concept of eldership opening up the day, libation. You can see here the chief elder, and Nkrumah is pouring out a libation, giving thanks, drumming. And in the end, Auntie comes to shut the whole thing down, but somebody offers her some fufu and shrimp, and something magical starts to happen. The music, the food, she starts to shake herself and move and dance, and she joins in with the party. So the whole idea is about, let's just help each other, let's move each other along. When we're low or when we're not going in the right direction, we can encourage each other. And then we have Uncle Borsi. So I don't know if any of you know the tune. Oh, so excuse me, 1 minute, let me just minimize that. Bring Uncle Borsi back. Borsi by Idris Elba. Well, this is one of those guys who thinks he's really hot. He's a winner. He's the best at everything. And yeah, that's Uncle Borsi. But so there's a race in Tamera Town. So I'm just trying to find my images. Okay. Yeah, there's what you call the Ubuntu race, and Uncle Borsi has won the Ubuntu race twice. Twice in sequence, and so he's ready to win it again. And so he's training, he's eating right. He's got his sportswear from Diop Sportswear. So I've got Adinkra symbols in there. And here's the start of the race. Tutmost is square. So I'm introducing all those kind of words, just sowing seeds really. And the Ubuntu run is opened up by Nani Boateng. Drumming, the abeng. Bosie's first out of the race, and he's set to win. But then there's a bit of a dilemma. Somebody has fallen in a ditch. He has to decide, does he want to win or does he want to help his brother? So that's I'll leave that bit for now, and we'll move on to the last story in the series, which is literally out to print. This is Auntie Ina. And I call her Auntie Ina because she's always in our people business. She's always trying to find out what's going on. And one of the things about Auntie Ina is that she has an extraordinarily long neck so that she can see what people are doing. When you're a young person, there's always an auntie like this, sort of, checking and looking, seeing what you were up to. And I'll just flick through, and Auntie Ina is sitting in a cafe with this is Uncle Fasting Fast. I won't go into him right now. So anyway, he goes off and does his own thing. Then Auntie notices that there are some strangers. These are the sausage people, the silly sausage people from the land of grilled sausage. I know it sounds very, I like absurdity. and they're up to no good. So Auntie follows them. What are they doing? She's listening at their van. And she realized that they'd come to rob Munamatapa Bank. So as you can see, I'm introducing again these concepts of our history. This is part of the Munamatapa Bank treasures. So the robbers come in now to steal the treasures. But Auntie jumps out on them. She does her praying mantis, and then they're taken away by the security, and the elders and the bank manager thank Auntie for saving the day. So her curiosity, inordinate curiosity, does have some value at times. So my books are all about building a culture of honor, one book at a time. Even though people are flawed, how do we help each other? How do we support each other? You know, how do we grow together as a community? So that's what the books are all about. They're available on my website, and I'll put the details in the chat. But the other thing that I'm doing is I'm trying to, again, following the principles of Ubuntu, build a distribution network that is fair for everyone, so that everyone gets, you know, a piece of the income. So if there's any of you on here who are interested in joining me to distribute the books, I'd love to hear from you. I'll put my details in the chat. And that is, yeah, that's my presentation. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take any questions if anybody's got some. And I'll put the information of my website, in the chat. So I'll stop sharing.
Can you just mention that website for the people that are listening via radio?
Yes, it is www.junopenarts.com. I'll spell that. So JUNOPENARTS for sugar.com. Shall I repeat that?
Yeah, you can repeat it one more time.
Yeah. www.JUNOPENARTS sugar.com, junopenarts.com, and I will share. I've put the details on the chat as well.
Okay, great. Armand Gonzalzles as well, if you could please put the details of where your book's available in the chat, because I couldn't see it when I looked in there, but please put that there. I've also shared the link to the Black Book Show's website, where all the authors' book links are available as well in the Zoom chat. And if anyone wants to contact me regarding the Black Book Show, I've put my email address there, and I'll say that again, that's info@blackbookshows.com. Right, I'm now going to go on to the next speaker of the Black Book Show virtual book tour. This episode is Tracy Williams. Tracy, please come on by telling us where you're based, a brief introduction about yourself, and then tell us, all about the series of books that you've written.
Thank you, Makonnen. Thank you for having me on the virtual book tour. My name is Tracy Williams. Very quickly about my background. I am a teacher. I come from education. I have over 15 years of experience as a school leader. I work in central London. I've spent all of my career working in schools across central London, working with parents and children from probably every racial and cultural background that there is. I originally come from Bedfordshire, but I currently reside in Watford. So I do a lot of commuting on a daily and weekly basis. I am the author and creator of a series of stories called Stories to be Told. And they are basically short stories, or what I like to call poetic narratives, that talk about milestones and key events in the British Empire and about Britain's colonial past. And it's targeted for children aged between 9 and 14 years of age, because I felt as an educator and as a school leader, there were so many learning gaps within our curriculum, particularly in the UK. And our history topic still has this very Anglicanized and Eurocentric perspective and feel about it. And, you know, over the years, what's inspired me to write these stories was the work that I've been doing, organising Black History Month projects, working with the Nubian Jack Community Trust in conjunction with English National Heritage that do the blue plaques. If you've been wandering around London, you might have seen blue plaques on various street corners and key buildings that basically commemorate where famous figures have lived. So I was very much I've very much been a part of that. So that's been one of my inspirations. But I just felt that there just wasn't enough in our history curriculum in schools that could really join the dots and make connections between the past, and particularly in relation to the British Empire and Britain's colonial past, and, you know, things that are going on today, you know, understanding the way that, you know, that there's so much political unrest in the world, and why there is so much political upheaval, why countries develop and shape their foreign policies with each other in the way that they do. And I just felt inspired to do some research on the topic, because I've always been interested in it. I've always had a passion for history and learning about the past, and a passion for reading and writing as well. And so I thought I would write these stories. And so far, I have published 8 titles so far. 4 of them, the most recent ones, are just behind me at the back, but I'll go through them one by one. So the first one you can see here is called Caribbean Wind, and that is a celebration. That's an ode to our Windrush generation. And if I've got time, I'll read a little bit and share a little bit of that one for you. The next one is called Caribbean Rush, and that is about England's early encounters with the Caribbean islands. So it's sort of written about the time of the Columbian period, and it just talks about the origins of England's early encounters with the Caribbeans and their skirmishes, their battles with the Spanish and the French to try and claim those islands, and what happened as a result of that. The third book in the series is called Knights at the Round Table, the Berlin Conference 1884. And that's my shortest story, but it's a perspective on the scramble for Africa. And the fourth book is called Gone with the Wind, Macmillan's Speech for Change. And this is set in 1960. And, you know, it was a time of great political unrest across the colonies, particularly British colonies in the Caribbean and in the Indian subcontinent, and right the way across Africa. And the Prime Minister at the time, Harold Macmillan, made quite a groundbreaking speech, because Britain had become aware that it was post-war and things were changing, and it could sense that its empire was going to break up. And this speech is all about how Harold Macmillan shows that awareness and prepares Britain for those changes. And then you got the fifth one is all about, well, we go to Hong Kong, and it tells the story of how Hong Kong became colonized by the British, and how that was then handed back to China in 1997. And the sixth book is called Bite from the Big Apple, A Story for New York. And that talks about the 13 colonies and the colonial era, and how New York came about. The seventh story in the series is called Hope for Zimbabwe, Arise the Phoenix. And that, again, together with the last story, the eighth story, Story for South Africa, talks about a bit about the pre-colonial history of South Africa and Zimbabwe, and about the journey through colonialism and the strive and the march for heritage. So those are my current 8 poetic that are. It was just important, really, to write these stories. You know, I feel like so many of us that there's so much of our own past that is not taught in, and there's so much that, you know, we are going to have to take the initiative and rise up and do for ourselves. And I think that, you know, it's really important as well to understand that learning about our history and learning about our past and making the connections with today's events is all part of a lifelong journey. I very much am an advocate of lifelong learning. I've learned so much through my own research about this particular topic, and the stories are really encouraging young learners and, you know, anybody who has an interest in learning more about the British Empire to embark on their own learning journey and to join the dots and make connections for themselves. Hand in hand with the stories, I have a podcast series out as well. It's called Stories to be Told, the podcast series. And it's all the research that didn't make it into the stories have actually gone into a lot of these episodes. And these episodes cover all kinds of topics from the past, and they cover topics in the present as well that have that colonial underlying narrative, so that again, young people can make those links and join the dots and make those connections between the past and between what is going on now. So just finally, I'd just like to just explain the structure of the stories. They are short stories, which are very quick to read, easy to understand, and the aim is to inspire learners to engage with the topic, because I know it's a very emotive topic. It's a very difficult topic to look at. It's really fundamental to the uncomfortable truth that dictates and governs a lot of agendas, a lot of social, a lot of economic, a lot of political agendas that are still at play today, that, you know, beset people of colour all over the world and quite often put us at a disadvantage. But it's in 2 parts, the story. So our first part is the story, which you have in a couple of chapters. And then the second part at the end, when you've read the story, there's a part that's called the learning journey. And the learning journey has a chronology of the key events in the story. And then it says, continue your learning journey. So I put a series of questions to go with each of the stories that if you want to continue your learning, it just points you in the right direction for further study and further research. And then there's a section called Build Your Vocabulary, where I take a lot of the language from the story and encourage the learner to continue, our young people, our children, to continue to build their vocabulary as they continue to learn, because building our vocabulary is so essential to be able to learn to read, to write, and to speak and to listen. And, you know, if you're a teacher like me, you'll know that it needs constant reinforcement, because it's the hardest. That's the hardest part of learning about literacy and learning the language, is to build the vocabulary. So you can get these books on Amazon. They are part of the Kindle Unlimited range, so you can download them as a bundle as well. They're available as ebooks on Apple Books, and they are available at Barnes & Noble as well. or you can visit storiestobetold.com, which is my website, which is where everything lives relating to what I do. I have an art gallery there full of alternative history ideas. The podcast lives there as well as, you can access the podcast on all major streaming platforms. And there's also additional learning journeys and mini documentaries, which have all been put together for learners to use and to explore, and to help them build their understanding further as they read the stories and, get the most out of them, and continue to enjoy them and read them again and again and again. So it's just about promoting the importance of lifelong learning, promoting the importance of understanding the past, owning our past, and understanding how our past links to the present day. And I think that is really, really important with the current situation that we have in our curriculum. We've heard about, even at university level, where courses that would help our young people coming up, help adults as well coming up, to validate aspects of our past are being pulled out of the curriculum. And, I just felt that it was my responsibility and my commitment to show my commitment to ongoing learning, and, to this whole topic of the British Empire and its importance in understanding our past. It's central to the way the world is today, and I believe it can help young people as well as ourselves to develop that understanding and continue to claim ownership of our own history and of our own identity. So that's me. Visit storiestobetold.com. You can buy the books there. I'll put the link in the chat. And thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Makonnen, for giving me the opportunity to share my work.
Great. It was really good. Again, I enjoyed it. Like I did enjoy, interviewing you for the Black Books radio show and podcast, which will be coming out very, very soon. Now, you've got a podcast yourself, as you mentioned. Could you just tell us very briefly about, the podcast that you've got? Let me just mention it.
Well, it's called Stories to be Told, and the told is spelled Tolled rather than the conventional sense. So it's called Stories to be Told, the podcast series, and it's in its third season now. It's not an interview format. I don't do interviews, but what I do is I tell various key events and milestones about the British Empire. And I also find links and find connections with various topics that are trending today. So, for instance, I will link it in with various key things that might be happening, such as I've done a podcast on celebrating the Windrush. I've done podcasts on Hong Kong and the link to tea. Interesting connections between tea and how Hong Kong was colonized. I've done quite a few so far on the British royal family and the interest that has been sparked by King Charles wanting to have an investigation into how the royal family procured their wealth through the transatlantic slave trade. I've done a podcast on Prince Harry's book, Spare. I've done it on a range of topics. I've even linked it to the war in Ukraine and the whole situation that is going on at the moment, because we can see in history that history does tend to repeat itself. We can find patterns, we can find links to the past, even when we sometimes think that there is no link, because look, the war is happening in Europe and it's not happening elsewhere. But we can make those links because human nature is the same throughout the world, and we can make connections between what I call explicit themes, those universal themes, and implicit themes, themes that are happening within a particular situation. And what I try to do for children and young people is to develop that curiosity, maintain that curiosity and that passion to continue to ask questions about history and about the past, to continue with the lifelong learning, but also to model and demonstrate the importance of historical inquiry as well, and how we must try to become independent learners and independent thinkers, and not just go by what we learn through our formal education, what we learn in the classrooms, what we learn in the textbooks, but quite often it's what you go out and research and find out for yourself that helps us to develop our understanding and really have clarity about what is really going on around us, and helps us to make sense of the world that we live in today. So that's what the podcast is all about. I think I've just done my 77th episode, so sort of 3/4 of a way through to my 100th episode. I'm just coming to the end of the 3rd season now, and yeah, it's you know, it's a body of work that I'm really proud of. I'm proud of the stories as well, but you know, when I first started it, I didn't think it was going to grow legs and have a head and start walking and talking, and it really has grown and flourished. And you know, I'll see for how long I can keep it up for, but it's called Stories to Be Told, the podcast series. Go and listen to it, and I'll put the link to my website in the chat.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be here this afternoon. Well, it's afternoon where I am. And just to hear the great stories and learn, because this is a great learning experience for me. I live in the United States in the Midwest. I have, my background is in education. I'm a retired educator of over 40 years in education. And I'll talk about Education for All now first. We offer consultation services. We offer services such as training. Some of our biggest trainings now are in social emotional learning, trauma-informed practices, and areas of special education. So we are available to help in those areas for your organization, for your district, for your church, whoever needs the training or to hear the information. We definitely are available. We can come in person depending on where you are, or we can do it virtually. And so also through that, we have the Cassie's Big Change series. And Cassie's Big Change series is a series that focuses or addresses social emotional learning. And it's Cassie and her friends. They start out, the first book was written during the height of COVID. I don't want to say during COVID because COVID isn't over yet. So during the height of COVID. And so the first book talks about Cassie and just the different ways kids were learning because of COVID-19. The second book really talks about the emotions and the feelings as kids go back to school. And it's Cassie's Big Change, going from the living room to the classroom, and just some of the emotions, the fun, the socialization that happens from that. Since then, we've also published several other books. One is a book on affirmations to help people in trauma. One is a book for adults and an affirmations book for children who experience trauma. And all of these are available on Amazon. Garwell Publishing, we help people publish, but sometimes people just need a little help in some parts of the publishing arena. And certainly we are available to help with that. I'll put my information in the chat later. So if there were any pieces of the publishing experience that you don't know, or you need help, or maybe you just need coaching through the experience and you want to self-publish yourself, that's what we are available for. And so we're definitely here to support authors. And being an author, the reason I started Garwell is because as I was starting out as a new author, my first book I was a co-author and was traditionally published. And then my children's series and everything after that, of course, is self-published. And as I was going through the self-publishing process, I definitely had some issues. I didn't know what I was doing. It was all new to me. And I really, at a point, just didn't know what to do. And so I needed help. And so I don't think that there are other people that's different for them. Some people, of course, you have, the process, and some people don't, and they just need a little help. And so that's what Garwell Publishing is here for. So reach out to us at garwellpublishing.com. You can also, we are on Instagram at garpub 2021. We are on Facebook at Garwell Publishing. And you can always send us an email at publish@garwellpublishing.com. And if you're interested in our books, the children's series, you can go, they're all on Amazon, but you can also reach us at cassiesbigchange.com. And that's the whole Cassie series with many accessories if you want to just add something special for the children that have that experience. So thanks again for just allowing me to share with you, just to know that I am here as a resource, and so certainly here to support any author, no matter where you are, to see how that we can support you on your journey, and just hope and pray that your journey has been a very positive one. Don't get frustrated. Please be patient in your journey, and know that things don't always happen exactly as we want them to, but you will have some great experiences being an author. So congratulations to those who are already authors, and to those who are aspiring authors. Just let us know if you need some support or some help on your journey. Thanks to the sponsors of the Black Book Show, and thanks to Makonnen for allowing this platform. Its platform has been wonderful just to meet and to hear the great stories of people that are going on that we may not otherwise know that's going on. And I also want to say that I found some very good collaborations in this platform when I've had questions or needed some support internationally. So thanks again. And everybody have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day and rest of your weekend. Thanks, Makonnen.
Thank you very much. That's Dr. Tamera Foley. I just want to say, reiterate, she is one of the sponsors of the Black Book Show. If you would like to be a sponsor of the Black Book Show, please reach out to me. You can send me an email, info@blackbookshows.com. That is info@blackbookshows.com. And then I will be able to discuss the different sponsorship packages we have. Or indeed, if you're author, publisher, or bookseller, and you would like to, promote your services, or you would like to promote your book, also feel free to reach out to me as well. Right, I'm going to move on to the next author now. The next author, Wendell Fields, and welcome you back to the Black Book Show. This is, it's his third or fourth time appearing on the Black Book Show. Wendell, he's going to be talking about his book about mental health. So Wendell, if you would like to, introduce yourself, tell us where you're based, and tell us all about your book you've written. Now, Wendell, we are running slightly ahead of time, so you do have some spare time. So I will let you know when your time is up if you do want to go over a little bit. So I'll leave that up to you.
All righty. So I have a little video presentation, if you wouldn't mind sharing the screen with me.
Yeah, I've allowed the screen share so you can do it.
All righty then. Let's see here. Well, need to do what I would like to do, but it's okay. So we're going to do it this way. All righty. And sharing now. All right. So I think you can see, and I am sharing. I believe I am. Oh, yeah, there we go. There we go. Well, my name is Wendell Fields. Oh, I got to give it up one more time. Wendell Fields. Oh, y'all, I had to grab my bald head for that one, boy, because I felt that one deep inside. You know what? I'm a person that hated that name. I want y'all to know, anytime I heard that name, I just knew I was in trouble. So therefore, when you said Wendell Fields, oh, what did I do now? But you all, one day, a person by the name of Philandra Johnson saw me from the side view, not the front view, y'all, the side view. And I was getting ready to get on the elevator, and she said, Wendell Fields, where you been? But I had never, ever heard somebody talk to me that way, say my name in such a good, positive way. But let me tell you, I said, hey, for people to get to know me, I want them to remember my name in a positive light. So that's the reason why I do my name in that Wendell Fields. And so who am I? I'm an agent of change for this current, next, and future generation of persons affected from, of all things, mental health, substance use, and suicidal conditions. In this movement, I'm so excited that I equip others on advocacy, on education, on resources and supports that's out there, and bring public awareness as it relates to substance use and mental health and suicidal conditions. So in that, you all, I'm old, y'all. I got 30 years into the mental health and substance use. Within that, got 16 years of working with the mobile crisis team in crisis intervention, okay? I'm a person that did attempt to take my life, you all, in 2008. And I'm in long-term recovery, not short-term, but long-term recovery with depression, anxiety, and the use of alcohol. I am now a certified peer specialist for addictive diseases and a certified addiction recovery empowerment specialist. I speak all over the world. I'm telling you, it's amazing about the subject matter. And I'm a certified life coach who is a Christian and board certified Christian counselor. Now, here it is. This is what got it on the map, ladies and gentlemen. I am the co-author of one of the best-selling mental health books for men on Amazon.com. And it is entitled, There Is No Health Without Mental Health Anthology, Men and Mental Health. How about that? Brother Man made it to the good old top of the list for a little while. And then, I'm going to make that thing happen some more because I'm working on another book. How about that? And in that, you all, God has been good to me in the way of that I was on a film with Kevin Hines, who's one of my mentors. And that gentleman shared his life story about jumping off the Golden State Bridge because he had mental health challenges. And in that, he talks about the recovery period that he went through. And let me tell you, that thing had me crying, y'all, boo-hooing, tears flowing, snot going out my nose. I'm telling you, he helped to motivate me to change my mind. Because in 2008, I was going to get hit by that train in my car, T-bone, to make sure I was dead. But my higher power stepped in. That's all I can tell you, because that steering wheel turned away from the train. That's all. And I didn't touch it. Okay. And in that, he let me be in this movie. It's called Suicide, the Ripple Effect. So whatever negativity has a ripple, guess what? Positivity has a ripple too. And that's what he has taught me. And in that, I've become certified in various trainings about suicide prevention. And so we got QPR. We have counseling on lethal means, to lethal means, meaning guns, knives, pills. I teach people on how to prevent a person from taking their life in that state of mind at that time. And so we talk about that. And then I get up there and I talk about youth, because our youth, man, it has increased, ladies and gentlemen. Youth taking their lives have increased. Some of that is due to how, we think that they're ready for things, and sometimes they're not. And so youth mental health first aid, it really does help us to understand how to help those teenagers, those adolescents and things as they are growing up, on how to deal with the thoughts and feelings of taking your life, as well as the bullying, cyberbullying, all these things that are going on, okay? Now, in this, I also teach a post-mention Connect Suicide post-mention program, which helps us to learn about what happens if someone did take their life. What can we do? What's the messaging that we need to put out? How do we do that safely? And so I've been doing this, you all, now for 5 years. And woo-wee, I tell you, it ain't no joke. It is no joke. But let's look at something else. Let's look at this book. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment, okay? And I'm going to show you all a good old book that been blessed to have, you all. Y'all just don't know. This book has saved my life a number of times, but also it has saved other people's life a lot of times. So as we look here, I'll bring it up, and there we go. I'm gonna share. Now you got to say that because my computer act wacky sometimes and it doesn't want to do right. So hopefully everybody can see. Yes, they can.
Yes, we should.
All righty. So this is the amazing book that was published about 2 years ago. And in that, you all, it is, there's no health without mental health, men and mental health. Let's talk about it. No silence, no shame, no stigma, no suicides. And Vanessa Abram is the person that helped gather 14 guys together to write this anthology. And each one of us have a different story about recovery, whether that's from drugs and alcohol, with mental health symptoms, or without the drug use. Because most of you all are saying, hey, what is mental health? Exactly. I don't get it. What it means. So I'm going to read the definition of this. What is mental health? Mental health is a state of well-being in which an individual recognizes their own abilities, can cope with normal stresses of life, can work productively, and contribute to their community. So those are the things that is mental health. But when it comes down to a mental health challenge, that is where there is a major change in a person's thinking, feeling, and acting. The change interferes with the person's ability to live their life. The interference now does not go away quickly and last longer than the typical emotions and reactions that would be expected. So if things are over like 2 weeks or so, you might need to check up on that. You might need to see your doctor, okay? So what is now a mental health condition or disorder? A mental health disorder or illness is a diagnosable illness that affects a person's thinking, emotional state, and behavior. It disrupts the person's ability to work, to attend school, to carry out daily activities, or engage in satisfying relationships. So this is what mental health diagnosis is. And guess what? You can't be the person that diagnosed you. You got to go to the good doctor, you all, get that diagnosable disorder. And when you do, like for me, it was the best thing since sliced bread for me. But it took me a long time, ladies and gentlemen, to get there. When you look at this book and you read the stories, you will find out that people have struggled so much because of the fear of stigma, discrimination, and fear. And guess what? The person could be looking like me with a suit on, who's a lawyer, who's a doctor, who's a teacher. So stop thinking that because you see it on TV, that's how people look on TV and that's mental illness. No, sir. No, ma'am. It can get to those types of now display of symptoms because the person isn't really doing good with the definitions I just provided you. And so here it is, 14 men got together and we started sharing our story. And in that, man, I tell you, it was one guy who was going to be a pimp. Yes, I said it, P-I-M-P. Had the hat, had the suit. I tell you, had the filter. Woo, that was a bad man. You hear me? But yet, he was going to be what his father was, which was a pimp. And he had to go through life learning. And now that joker is a doctor. Yet he has mental health stuff. I got another person that's in the book. He had to live with his father, and his father was homeless. And they had found, you know, one of those campers that we travel up and down the road in and all of that. It was abandoned, and that was their home on the side of the road. And he was telling his story of having to take bird baths with a bucket of cold water and soap, and how that the stuff that he went through with the mental health things. And ladies and gentlemen, if you never heard of this, it's called ACEs. Anybody heard of that? What is ACEs? ACEs is adverse childhood experiences. And we find out that when people go to jail, when people are in one single household, that's one parent is there and they're not married or together, or they seem like domestic violence, or it could be war going on. Those things affects a person's mental health. And when that happens, guess what? The pressure of all these things going on causes the person not to be able to respond in a helpful way. Okay. Hey, it could be genetic. Hey, it can even be to the point of environmental, or because of the use of alcohol and drug use. So, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to mental illness, please, ma'am, please, sir, know that something is going on. And it could be traumatic, that something has happened in the past and it has caused them not to respond the way that normally we would respond. Okay. And you know what that has to do with? It starts with the word culture. If our culture makes it bad, then we get it bad. Culture can be defined as the same shared patterns of behaviors, interactions, thinking, and understanding that are learned through the groups that we belong to and identities that we hold on to. What does culture do? Culture affects our health choices, our behaviors, our values about health and health care. Who do we go to for support? What we think causes good and bad health, and what health means to us. That's what culture do. Now, getting ready to close, I want to share with you my story. So with this, you all, I'm a gentleman that was born 2 pounds, 10 ounces. So all of me could fit in a baseball cap. And from that day on to the age of 4, everything was cool. But at the age of 4, I got molested by both men and women. And in that, it messed me up in how I related to people and even how I related to myself. In that, you all, I went to school. People just didn't think that I was any good because they thought I had a developmental disability. And I got picked on, and that went on. So when I went to college, I didn't study that well because I wanted to be light because all the stuff I went through in the past. And I ended up partying and drinking. And guess what, you all? It wasn't a good deal. I got kicked out. Not only did I get kicked out of that school, I went to another school, got kicked out of that because of my health reasons. Got home and I tried to, spruce it up. And guess what? I got married. I got a job that I've been with for over 30 years. And I became a licensed and ordained minister. And in that, you all, I thought I was covering up my hurt and my pain by doing that. But those things still came and I got more and more depressed. And when it happened that I got written up on the job, I got a divorce after 13 years and got a 3-year-old child. And I was in the ministry and a big scandal happened in the church and it broke us up because of the lead pastor. You all this hurt and pain from the past and currently. And guess what? I got a knock on the door saying that I owed child support and I had it. And with that, I tried to take my life. So in 2008, yep. But then after I was trying to get help, the medications made me feel loopy. I mean, here it is. I went to therapy. And if y'all seen Coming to America, the first one, and Eddie Murphy asked the bride to be, hey, so what color do you like? And she said, whatever you like. That's what I thought therapy was, a whatever you like to do type of thing. And I hated it. I hated the medication. I hated therapy. I hated everything. So I left it alone for 10 years. For 10 years, from 2008 all the way to 2018, until I heard Kevin Hines' story. And he brought me to a place of wanting to get help. My supervisor ended up, you all, helping me. She volunteered to take me to the doctor, not the hospital, because I was really depressed, you all. And I was thinking about taking my life again. And in that, you all, I met a wonderful doctor, Dr. Thurman. And he was talking about medication. I was like, no, buddy, I already did that. Don't want to do it. No. And he got up and he said, Mr. Fields, I would love to help you. But in my range, this is what I can do. And then we can put also in supports with the medication. So guess what? The brother man tried. And for 5 years, this brother man has been blossoming like nobody's business. Do you hear me? Nobody's business. And it's helped me to share in this anthology, this book. So, ladies and gentlemen, in this, when you see me and you hear about this story, know that there is hope for us all, whether you have mental health symptoms or not. And I just want to say, man, thank you yet again for allowing me to share my story and the hope that is there now. Movies, books, magazines, on the show, y'all don't get it. Life is so much better when I decided to do better. And it's just not take my meds. It's me eating right. It's me resting. It's me exercising. It's me doing and sharing my story. It's me still going to my place of worship and making that thing happen. So stay encouraged, you all. For those that may be or having mental health issues, hey, go to that doctor. Go get that help. And then start getting the support that's out there. because it really is out there. Just can't be scared to do so and be honest and vulnerable with yourself. Man, whew, I tell you, that got me all heated up. I don't know how to act right now. I mean, where my fan at? Somebody get the fan. I'm just burning up over it. Got hot lights on me, hot lights. And I tell you, the brother man is just trying to, woo, can you help me out, sir? Can you help me out?
Right, thank you very much,
so much.
Wendell. We're gonna keep it moving now. But yeah, as always, it's always a pleasure to have you on the Black Book Show and share your journey. And I hope it's a lot of people can take a lot from your experience. Before we go, two things. One, please put the links to your book in the Zoom chat, but also again, just mention where the book is available for the people that are listening in.
All righty. So the book is available on Amazon.com. And you can reach me at Wendell, WENDELL _Fields, FIELDS at yahoo.com. And you can go to my website, www.wendellfields.com. And that's how you can get in contact with me. That's how you can look at the book. It's not a big, large amount, you all. It's about $15. And so, hey, look it up. And thank you again for letting me be on the show yet again for the third or fourth time.
Okay, thank you very much, Wendell. Before we go on to the next author, I just want to remind everyone, please, Wendell, again, put your links in the Zoom chat. But also, all of the authors that I'm speaking on this episode of the Black Book Show, their links are available by the Black Book Show website. So if you go on blackbookshows.com, there's a section on the menu which says July 2023 speaker list. And then all of the authors will come up with links to where their books are available. They're there. So I'm just going to hover over this part here because Wendell Fields just spoke. So there's Wendell Fields. If I clicked on his link here, it would take me to his website where his book's available. Okay, right. We're going to go on to the next author. So the next author is Bernice Gayle. So Bernice, please come on, introduce yourself and tell us where you're based, and then go on to tell us all about the book that you've written.
Yeah. My name is Bernice Gayle, and I am based in London. My book is to do with a spiritual journey with Bell's palsy. Okay, my story. It all started after my son's birthday party. So we had a birthday party for my son. It was a surprise party. And so a day or two after the birthday, after the party, I felt really unwell. And I felt unwell in the sense that my whole body was just feeling completely numb, different from how it used to be. And so I just thought, well, it might have been something that my daughter put in the food. It might have been something like seasoning, something completely different. So when I asked her about it, she said, well, no, I hadn't put anything different in there. It's the same thing like that I usually cooked with. And this is what she was saying about it. And so I went to my bed and woke up about 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was still feeling unwell. I started to brush my teeth and spat the excess water. The whole of the water was just everywhere, just splattering, just going all over the place. And so I started to get a bit scared. But then my left side, the left side of my face was awful. It was swelling, getting bigger and bigger. And I just thought perhaps I was having a stroke. And so what I did was to go to my GP 7:30 in the morning, and in fact, I was the first one there because I was so frightened. Being at the GP, I then saw a doctor and I told her how I was feeling. And she said to me, well, you look very, very pale. So she looked in my ear, she looked in my eyes and took my blood pressure. My blood pressure at that time was really, really high. So then she said, well, you have got an infection in your left ear. So it all started there with that infection that I had in my left ear. And what she had done was to give me some antibiotic drops to put in my ear and also some eye drops. And so I went to the pharmacist and got the medications that she had prescribed. I was still feeling unwell when I went home. So then I went to the hospital because I was just feeling so lethargic, just unwell. And I went to the hospital in London, which is Lewisham Hospital, and told them exactly how I was feeling. And they carried out a test and they said, well, if you are still feeling the way you're feeling, then go back to your GP. So I went home and took the medications that was prescribed for me, took it and tried to sleep. I slept maybe for about 5 minutes or so and woke up, and the whole of my face was just droopy. It was swelling, my mouth, I just could not talk. I couldn't say the word Papa, Mama, could not drink from a cup. I was using a straw. And so when my daughter came from work, I told her what had happened. And she then called the ambulance because by this time she was frantic, just like I was frantic. So she called the ambulance and they asked her to carry out various tests on me, like put your hand, can she raise her hand? Can she squeeze? Can she talk? All of that. And in less than no time, the ambulance came, and whilst being in the ambulance, they carried out like my blood pressure, and one of the crew said, I've got Bell's palsy. So my daughter said, well, what is that? I said, well, what on earth is that? So he then said, it's Bell's palsy and it's something that will progressively get better. Whilst in the hospital now, I saw the consultant and he also said, I have got Bell's palsy. So from there, I began to write the things that were happening to all the things that were happening to me. So I started to journal, and from journaling, I wrote a book, and my book is called A Spiritual Journey with Bell's Palsy. So who is Bernice? I'm a god. My grandmother told me from a very, very young age that you are a god. So I'm a god. From that, I am also a mother of 4 children. I'm a primary school teacher, and I am an author. And here is my book. It's an award-winning book, and it's called The Spiritual Journey with Bell's Palsy. Sorry, and I shall tell you a bit more about that. Come back to that. I've got an upcoming book, which I shall talk about that later on. I've got enough time, that is. Right, so in my book, Spiritual Journey with Bell's Palsy, it started off by looking at the disturbances, the journey, spiritualism, meditation, the awakening beyond who you are, spirit, transformation, recovery. Your health is your wealth. And I'm going to use a quote. I'll show you a quote. So what do I mean by the term spirituality? So spirituality, it's the value you have about yourself and how we are connected together with the experiences that we've gained throughout our life. And in my book, The Spiritual Journey with Bell Sportsy, I've got various quotes in there. And the quotes are from people who have actually inspired me to write more about how I was feeling, how I'm feeling. So this quote is by Michelle Obama, and she said, "You may not always have a comfortable life, and you will not always be able to solve all of the world's problems at once. But don't even underestimate the importance you can have, because history has shown us that courage can be contagious and hope can take on a life of its own." And that is Michelle Obama. So here, the weaknesses when it started in my body, weaknesses in my body. So it's the part of my courage. It's just a part of my courage. So I'm taking some ideas from Michelle Obama's quote. Is this a part of my courage? So what I'd like you to do is come along so that I can take you with me to my place of hope. I'm going to remind you of the condition that for me was mysterious. Are these mechanisms? And if so, what are they? So it's important at this juncture to look at some of the biological mechanisms that lead to the condition known as Bell's palsy. It's said to be it's poorly understood, a condition that is not well known. So let us look closely at a label diagram that will show you some of the things that had happened to me. So it's a neuron, and a neuron is a nerve cell that transmits electrical signals to and from the brain and other parts of the body. So here is, I'll just quickly show you the neuron. So that's how it looks in the body. And in my book, I go into details about each of the features, the labeled there. So here, what is Bell's palsy? So Bell's palsy is a condition that causes temporary weakness of the muscles in the face, which I spoke to you earlier on about how I was feeling in terms of my face, my droopiness in my face. So it is caused, the cause of it is not fully known, so people are not sure as to what causes it, although some people are saying that it could be due to stress. Some researchers say that it is likely caused by a virus infection, usually herpes, which seems to inflame the nerves. In addition to this, the herpes virus is the one that also causes cold sores, herpes. It is also said that the chickenpox and shingles viruses are linked to Bell's palsy. So my question is to ask is, well, what then is herpes? So this is what Layla Africa said. And there's a picture of Layla Africa. He said, the world's most successful methods of holistic healing and living. So this is what this is him. This is what he does. So it's an holistic healing doctor. He's no longer with us, unfortunately. He showed that there is a biochemical imbalance, and the body will always produce herpes whenever it is trying to cleanse itself from toxins. So it seems as though during the condition that I had quite a lot of things going on. It was my body was very toxic. And according to Lejet, he was saying, yes, things are happening too. Those were the things that were happening to you. And I didn't realize that all of these can affect our body. He noted that when this happens, the body becomes mildly or severely sick and eventually collapses. The immune system, it collapses the immune system, which as a result, you have disease. So it's disease and disease. So I'm going, so whilst doing this, I was absolutely poorly for a few, I was so ill. It was just, I just felt as though I was going to die. And at one stage, I said to my brother and my son, look, I do not want these people to come to my funeral. I don't want this, I don't want that, because I was on medication that was very, very strong. So it's on steroids. I was taking something like 14 tablets for 2 weeks, and it was just absolutely awful. The first time when I started to take it, I just felt as though I was on a roller coaster. So my heart was just pounding. It was just like doo-doo, doo-doo, doo-doo. And I just could not like sleep. I couldn't sleep at all. So I then went to my doctors and said, well, look, something is drastically wrong. I cannot sleep. So what they'd done was to give me 2 sleeping tablets, because according to them, they don't really give sleeping tablets out. So they gave it to me and I took 1. And from taking that 1 tablet, I was just hallucinating. And I just thought, you know what, I am not going to take any more. So all of these that I'm talking to you about, they're all in my book.
Okay, Bernice, you've got a minute and a half left.
Oh my gosh. So I did meditation, which I use as a way out, a way to cure my body, to heal my body. And yeah, I'm going to stop there. As I said, everything is in my book. Finally, I'd like to thank you for walking with me on my spiritual journey, health journey. And you can get my book, which is, I've showed earlier on, which is The Spiritual Journey with Bell's Palsy. It's there, it's on Amazon. You can also get my book on my website, which is Success with Spiritual, successwithbellspalsy.com. And a part of my second book, my upcoming book, this picture here was done by my son. It's to do with children. It's around the children who have Bell's palsy, and it's on a young teenager, looking through the eyes of a young teenager, and also they'll be able to see all of that. So my book, Spiritual Journey with Bell's palsy, is through the eyes of my grandmother. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Bernice Gayle, and please do put the details of where that book can be purchased as well in the Zoom chat. Bernice, I recently interviewed her on the Black Books radio show and podcast, and it was a really, really great. If you go onto blackbookshows.com, select podcast interviews, and then scroll to the bottom, there's an option where you can have, which will take you to Spotify, where you can see a list of the interviews, and you can actually, if you want to know more about Bernice's journey with Bell's palsy, you can listen to that podcast.
So good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Denise, and I'm here to speak about my mentee, an aspiring author. Now his dream has come through. His name is Maurice Lennon. So I'm here to speak about his book. He's unable to be here today. So before I introduce him, I'll just say a bit about myself as well. So I'm a psychotherapist, and I've published 2 books, Back to Love and Inner Life Rights. And like I said, with Maurice being my first mentee, and that, you know, I didn't start off saying I was a mentee, but I really walked him through the whole process of, you know, running with this idea of writing his life story, which as a creative process, I liken it to like gathering the skeleton, the bones for the body of the book, and then fleshing it out, you know, with the stories that's really going to touch people and do his life story and journey justice. So I'm now adding that as a branch to my my business tree. Like I said, I'm like a therapist and an author, an inspiration life coach, and a clinical supervisor. So let me read from the book. It's called From Childhood to Man, Slipping, Falling, You Can Get Up. So I'm going to read, and I'm going to introduce Maurice from what he's written in the book about himself. So, right, about Maurice Lennon. Maurice Lennon is a 60-year-old father of 3 children and grandfather of 2. He works as a traffic marshal in the construction industry. When he's not doing that, you may find him in the gym, as he's a great lover of sports and athletics. He also loves to read books that are culturally, spiritually, and mentally uplifting and informing. Maurice first discovered a love for the English language and literature in early childhood. After hearing about his life, a number of key individuals have said that he should write his own story. Maurice is a man of stories, and he loves to share them in oral and written form. He's a student of life and likes to observe and learn from it. He is excited to be doing so in the writing of his first book and life story, From Childhood to Man. He also plans to turn his attention to short stories, stories with messages that invite the reader to learn from life by listening to other stories where people like Maurice have triumphed over adversity, beating the statistics. Self-knowledge and self-confidence is everything. And as the late, great, Honorable Marcus Garvey said, if you haven't confidence in self, you are twice defeated in the race of life. With confidence, you have won even before you have started. Okay, so that's a brief introduction of Maurice. So why has Maurice written this book, which I think it's an important one at these times, especially for young Black men, young Black boys to men, and for Black men and the Black community in general. I'll read from the epilogue where he tells you why he has done this. Okay. So I'm just reading a piece of it, not the whole epilogue. He says, I would like to take this time to say that in writing this book, I'm in no way glorifying crime and violence. I just wanted to take some time to share some of my life experiences, and in doing so, hopefully enlighten or uplift someone in some way. I wanted to share that when a child is born into poverty-stricken, oppressive environments, childhood becomes a hood, having a negative impact on the child's chances in life, making the community, in this case, African, Caribbean, Black British, and Black American, stuck in a past filled with trauma for longer than young people are supposed to. Nas, a rapper, songwriter, and entrepreneur, raps about this on his track and album, Second Childhood, what I call message music. I also want to say that as a group, Black people are bigger and better than what the system statistics dictate. There is a saying that we are what we eat, meaning that whatever we put into ourselves, whatever we consume, is what we get out. I survived. This should not be good news. This is how it is supposed to more often than not be. I did not survive because of luck. I sowed some bad seeds, but I mostly sowed good ones that came back to find and bless me at key points in my life. I also came from a long line of progressive, intelligent, pioneering ancestors and relatives upon whose shoulders I stand. I also made it a point to learn from my experiences and not to bullshit myself. I was always able to stay within the confines of reality, live there, and use myself and my life as an example, which I now take to new levels in this book. So that's the why of the book. And I'm going to read from the book a little bit more, but I just want to talk on the subject of the importance of nurturing environment for young people, especially young Black people. And when I talk about environments, I mean the environment in the own, the environment in the community, in the society, and the world as a whole. You know, when those environments, when those environments aren't nurturing and are harmful, it shapes the child and its life chances. I mean, to me, this is not rocket science. And Wendell spoke about adverse childhood experiences not too long ago, and I'm going to touch on them again here. So I'll give some examples of what adverse childhood experiences are. So it includes emotional abuse, emotional neglect, physical abuse, physical neglect, sexual abuse, mother being treated violently, parental divorce, household mental illness, and an incarcerated family member. You know, there's a big study, the ACEs study. It's really good to read up on that, so we get to understand how important the early environment is on our psychological, physical, and psychoeconomical health. Negative outcomes of those types of early experiences. Psychological is depressive disorder, and that can lead to suicide. Heavy drinking, addictions, as Wendell was saying as well, compromise mental health and well-being. Once again, depression, anxiety, panic attacks, personality disorders. You know, on physical health, you know, there's a relationship between adverse childhood experiences in the development of cancer, strokes, diabetes, asthma, obesity, etc. And the last guest was talking about stress. You know, stress truly is a killer. And psychoeconomically, you know, leads to those types of experiences leads to unemployment, high rates of unemployment for those in the community of those who experiences it, and low academic achievement. Like I said, I don't think this is rocket science, and we're not hearing any of this for the first time. But Morris's books really talk about that. I mean, the word childhood, you know, it's got child in lowercase and it's got hood capitalized just to emphasize about the environmental factors. And in his book, he speaks about, for example, schizophrenia. So he speaks about psychosis when a close relative, his mother's uncle, went crazy one night and, you know, assaulted them. An experience that stays with him today and causes him to have anxiety and still a bit of PTSD, because at night he feels he has to wear a tracksuit bottom in case something happens and he has to get away quickly. Yeah, as he was writing the book as a psychotherapist, I was saying that psychosis, that schizophrenia, seeing his brother killed for no good reason at 8, you know, that's traumatic. Having to jump over dead bodies to go to school, that was a natural occurrence in his childhood, you know, that's not normal, you know, and all the symptoms and these negative impacts that comes with that. Someone said that those are an abnormal reaction to an abnormal situation. Yeah, so I think we should stop expecting people who come out of those experiences to grow up and do well. You know, some of us like Maurice Story talks about, and my book, Back to Love, also speaks about, triumph over the adversity and come to kind of pay that forward in the community. And that's why I do my work as a psychotherapy. I see myself very much as a Harriet Tubman of souls, you know, going to recover people's true selves from under those wreckages and helping them to grow and build and develop. Yeah, and in my second book, Inner Life Rights, I really focus on those environmentals, and I look at trauma and recovery and mental health and well-being all around the Black community. So just to add that here as well. What else? Okay, so I'm just going to read a bit on beating statistics. Like I said, overcoming adversity, you know, because we have agency. And as Black people, we stand on the back of our ancestors who are champions and masters in overcoming adversity. Okay, so I'm just going to read what he says on beating statistics. Okay. Sorry, 1 minute. Page 30. How much time have I got left? Okay, so I'll read a quote from Malcolm X. It says, "Sometimes a fruit falls from a tree and rolls so far away from its roots that it's no longer of that tree. The hard fall and the long journey bruises the fruit so much that it totally changes it. It's the same way for some of our people. This is why some can't be awakened regardless of how much truth you present to them. This journey has totally brainwashed them to such a degree that they are no longer of the original tree." And I would say it's this quote, I just don't see it for us as a people, but I think it's for as a race, as a human race. We've moved so far away from, you know, being humane and being humankind. And, you know, we live in a time when fake is real and real is something people have to come to therapy to become. We've really got it mixed up as humans. Okay, so that's a quote, and just following the quote, Marie says, "I have a dream, and I am the dream. The dream in search of and back to that tree Malcolm X speaks of in the above quote. One of my dreams today, as I seek my true purpose and reason for still being alive in these times, is to write my life story. I've always wanted to write my life story, and throughout the course of my life's journey, a number of people have said that I should. I started to do so in 2020, and if you are holding my book in your hands, that dream has been realized." Yeah, so I'm holding his book and it's been realized.
Okay, Denise, you've got 1 minute and 20 seconds.
Lovely. Okay, so I just want to, though I was Maurice's mentee, we went, he self-published, but we went with a self-publisher, and that publishing house is called Conscious Dreams Publishing, headed up by Danielle Blencher, and she exists to create a space where diverse voices can tell their stories and have the stories out there in the world, diverse primarily as well being Black. So big up Danielle, and so you can purchase Maurice's book there at consciousdreamsbookshop.com. I'll type it up afterwards. Also, you can purchase at Amazon.com as well as UK. You can purchase Barnes and Nobles, Waterstone. If you Google Maurice Lennon from childhood to man, there'll be other outlets that you can purchase from, as well as from my website. My website is innersideout.net. So you can get his book there, as well as the 2 other books that I've written that I've mentioned. You can email me at andstillIrise9@outlook.com. And also I have 2 private Facebook groups, one called Black People Dream Too, and the other one is From Childhood to Man. They're private groups. If you're looking for a tribe, if you're looking for a space of encouragement, to realize your dream, to seek, you know, help, especially in terms of any advice I can give as a psychotherapist, please email and I will get back in touch with you. Thank you so much, McKinnon, for having me today. And thank you, everybody who's still here and still listening. Bye.
Okay, thank you very much. That's Denise James. Denise, please put your links in the Zoom chat as well. I'm going to go on to the next author now. The next author is B.G. Howard. So B.G. Howard, please introduce yourself, tell us where you're based, and tell us then all about your book you've written.
Hi, my name is, as Mr. Sankofa stated, B.G. Howard, and I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. With I just lost my video.
No, we can see you. We can see you. When you're speaking,
Okay.
you may see a logo of the Black Book Shows, but don't worry, we can still see you on camera.
I'm sorry, say again.
We can still see you on camera. Just continue. We can still see you.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you. Again, I am B.G. Howard. I'm based in Jacksonville, Florida, and I'm a former business owner who retired. I say retired, but it was due to an accident several years ago. And I started writing. I mean, my journey was a little bit different than most people who simply choose to write. I had an accident, as I stated. I endured about 7.5, 8 years of therapy and rehab. So at some point, during the therapy, I started writing just as a means of coping. I needed to quieten the voices inside my head. So I just sat at the computer one day and opened the Word document, started typing. I didn't know what I was doing. So about 2.5 years later, I had something. I didn't know what it was, but I just found it away on my computer and started writing something else. So fast forward about 6-7 years, and I had been got married, and we went to Massachusetts on a few hours notice. So we intended to be there for 2 weeks. We actually ended there for two months. And my wife came to me one day and she said she was bored. Okay, what do you want me to do about it? She goes, well, I need something to do. And I said, okay, what do you want me to do about it? And she said, didn't you write a book? And I said, I don't remember. That's part of the accident, the stutter and the loss of memory. But so anyway, I eventually found what turned out to be my first manuscript. I found it and I gave it to her. She came back a few days later and says, wow, you can write. And I said, oh, okay, great. Because I don't know what I was doing. So anyway, long story short, we returned to Jacksonville, and I said, if my novel is publish worthy, I don't want it to speak of my life prior to the accident. So I basically added another 7 or 8 chapters to the novel because I wanted to finish it actually. So when I finished it, I published it, and the first version did very well, but I didn't research how to write a novel until after I'd actually launched the first novel. So in my research, I found out there are a lot of things that I didn't do. So I essentially went back and fixed it. And ergo the revised edition, Family Ties Thicker Than Blood. So the novel speaks about the life of a young man who relocates from South Georgia to New York. He's an aspiring actor / model, and it details the exploits of Willie LeBeau. He accidentally saves the life of Oswald Jenkins, he's a notorious figure of a crime family, but you can't be a thug named Oswald. So he's termed Oz. He's called Oz. So Oz more or less adopts Willie as a father figure, or Willie adopts Oz as a father figure, and he's running things for Oz, but he has a situation from his past where he will not touch drugs or drug money because of something that happened before he moved to New York, and this causes the previous second in command by the name of Anthony or Amp, who Willie unseated, and because of this, Amp thinks that Willie is soft. So because he's been unseated, Amp develops an attitude, and he teams up with another former protege of Oz's by the name of Jerome. So Amp and Jerome has this plan to take over Oz's territory. Oz, on the other hand, is unsuspecting and thinking things are, moving along as normal. But then Amp and Jerome are sowing seeds of discourse that basically disrupt the entire family organization. So things are a little bit further complicated when Willie becomes romantically involved with NYPD officer Ernestina Ulaini. He obviously can't tell the officer, his love interest, his true nature of income, and he by reason cannot tell Oz that he desires to be an actor / model, because Oz views actors and models as unrealistic people who live unrealistic lives with unrealistic expectations, and so they can't live a fulfilling life. So in the quest to become an actor, Willie can't let Oz know, and of course he can't let Ernestina know about his true art of income, art of work. I'm sorry, forgive me. But Willie is dating a police officer while operating things for Oz, and he then meets an elderly woman by the name of Eunice, who's the resident of one of the properties he frequents. Eunice is from South Carolina, oddly enough. I'm sorry, she's from Georgia, not too far from where Willie lives, and she's married to a guy by the name of Sam, who is from South Carolina. They moved to New York 30 years ago, and they meet coincidentally when they both moved to New York. So they kind of adopt Willie as a son. So they become surrogate parents to him. He's got Oz, who is the father figure, Ed and Eunice, who are parental figures, and that's a stark contrast to his relationship to his biological parents, who live in Georgia. And the storyline basically encompasses the family, the dynamics of the family structure. So it's a very interesting story. If you're into crime thrillers, it takes you on a journey from Willie's small town upbringing. He's like most of us Southern gentlemen, we have morals, that are, grounded in our family history, our heritage. And, when I was coming up, you're taught to respect people, things like, yes, sir, no, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Those are things that were mandated in our house. So for people to talk the way I hear young people speaking to adults in this day and age, my grandparents never would have tolerated that. So that's one of the things that I like about the characters. They example. I mean, there are a lot of little nuggets, I call them, that speak about the road, the coming of age of young men, and hopefully reading this novel, it's entertaining, but it'll also give people an idea of what it should be, what being a respectful young man should be about. I mean, Willie's exploits are not exactly, how can I say this? He tries to, he's a thug with morals. I mean, he for all intents and purposes, he considers himself an upstanding person. But like most individuals coming up, as young men, there are experiences that you have that, don't necessarily line up with your morals and your upbringing. As a young man, a lot of us go through the same thing. We take the same route to manhood, if you will. And the story is really interesting because I think it gives you a glimpse into real life. That's one of the things that I tried to do when I wrote the novel. I just wrote what came. I mean, when I went back and researched how to write a novel, the research suggested that you start the novel with the end in mind. You outline the plot, the characters, the character descriptions, so on and so forth. I didn't do any of that. I just literally sat at my computer every morning and I said, okay, Lord, here I am. What you got for me? And I literally wrote what came. So it's a very, very interesting experience for me. It proved more therapeutic than anything else because during that time, I was undergoing, I had underwent 7+ almost 8 years of physical therapy and rehab. It was basically a means of quietening the voices inside my head. So very interesting experience. My first attempt at writing. The current novel is the revised edition, Family Ties Thicker Than Blood, because after I did the research and learned what I did wrong, I had to go back and correct it in order for it to make sense for the next the sequel. So Family Ties 2, Blood Covenant, is due to launch the first week of December. And you can find basically all that you want to know about me in the novel at my website. It's listed as www.authorbghoward.com. Again, www.authorbghoward.com. And I have a presence on several of the social media platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. If you go there, I'll leave the social media sites and my website in the chat. Also, if you wish to order a novel, the platforms where they can be purchased, or if you wish to have a signed copy, contact me via the website or email me directly, bg@authorbghoward.com, and I will promptly respond. And anything that you order from me, of course, it will be signed. I just enjoy the idea of constructing worlds outside of the one in which I live, because with my experience, my own world proves a whole lot more challenging than most. But I will forever be in rehab. I still deal with consequences of the accident, inclusive of the stutter, memory loss. I battle with severe bouts of depression, and the writing honestly proves to be more therapeutic, as I stated, than anything else.
You've got a minute and a half left.
Thank you. But I encountered Mr. Sankofa on one of the social media platforms, as I stated, and he has helped me a great deal, and I tried to be supportive of his webcast. I think honestly that writers can use a lot more support. It's a very difficult journey. Myself as a self-published novelist, not knowing a whole lot about the industry, it's just been a very big help for individuals like Mr. Sankofa to be of assistance to people like me. But again, I thank you for use of your platform. I thank you for all the authors who are here, and continue writing.
Okay, it's great to have you on the show, BG Howard, and I appreciate that you appreciate me. So, right, we're going to go on to the next speaker. Just a reminder as well, please put the details of your book and all your details in the Zoom chat as well, in case people want to get hold of your book or reach out to you. The next author that we're going to go on to is Bharti Dhir. Bharti is author of the book called Worth. So, Bharti, if you'd like to come on and please tell us about your book.
Hi, I'm Bharti Dhir. Thank you, Makonnen. Thank you, Sister Lejet. Thank you, everybody, for listening to me. My book is called Worth. Essentially, it's about being abandoned in Uganda as a baby and being adopted as a dual heritage African Asian child, but being adopted by an Asian family. And it charts my journey of the growing realization of sexism, racism, prejudice through an illness that I developed, and also being a refugee, because in 1972, my adoptive family, and myself included, were part of the exodus from Uganda when Idi Amin asked all the Asians to leave. I'm just going to be very quick to say that worth is essentially about experiences that bring our sense of worth up and bring our sense of worth down. It is my memoir, and I just want to read a quick excerpt out of it, just so that you get some idea of how I brought myself out of a situation of low self-esteem to a situation where I started to accept and to embrace my sense of worth. So, worth starts the very moment you start questioning, and it rises when you turn that question into a statement. This isn't right. I shouldn't be feeling this pain. I shouldn't be treated like this. I don't want to feel like this anymore. I don't want to be anxious. I don't want to be depressed. Worth rises between the question and the statement. A question may well feel helpless. Why me? But it can also ignite resistance. I don't accept this situation. I won't put up with this treatment. A better question would be to ask what you want instead, putting it into a positive light. When you acknowledge your resistance, you create change. You change the way you're seeing yourself, not as a victim, but as a warrior who knows their worth. So whether it's an illness, whether it's the way you're being treated, or it's something that happened, your sense of worth is the voice that says, No, that's not me. This is unfair. Listen to that voice because it will spur you into action to protect yourself, to stand firm, and to grow strong. For before you can act against the negative situation or words, you need to rise up and say to the other person that they have no right to speak about you or to you in this way. It's this realization that causes you to act and become stronger. Worth always feels alive. It's not a memory or a habitual thought form like negative thoughts that swim around your head sometimes. It's not something that's static. It's a movable achievement. Worth comes into your heart and tells you, you are better than this. You're always good enough. So I'm just going to end there. And I'm just going to say that Worth is available in Amazon and Barnes & Noble, Waterstones, and all leading bookstores, as well as some independent ones. I do hope you'll support this memoir. And I want to thank Makonnen and Sister Lejet for giving me a platform on this forum every month. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bharti Dhir, for being one of the sponsors of the Black Book Show. But yeah, it's Auntie Jean, the Black Book Show. Sister Lejet is a bookseller. She's going to be speaking next, but Auntie Jean every month we do the collaborations with. So yes, we give thanks for Auntie Jean for the collaboration with the Black Book Show.
Yes, so, I always get nervous. Sorry. So thank you for correcting.
No worries. Okay, yes, please put your details in the Zoom chat. We're going to swiftly move on as we're heading out of time. So Sister Lejet is going to come on for a few minutes, and then we have Robin Walker, the Black History Man, who will be following her after that. So Sister Lejet, if you just please would like to come on and tell us, about what you do in terms of, the book selling. You're on mute. If you just unmute, Sister Lejet.
Unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. It's great to see you all. Quite a few of you I know personally, and this book journey has been great. I just thoroughly love what I do, and of course, I've got Makonnen's book, so I'm showing off now, and I'm also showing off because I've got Robin Walker's books as well. You see, so my journey literally started because I love reading books, and it led me to doing some courses, and I also have been on several of Robin Walker's courses. So what I'd like to say is, as a matter of urgency, what has taken place is concerning one of our esteemed professors. His name is Dr. Hakeem Addy, and he was a professor at Chichester University. And what has happened, they've taken him off from the university and also his course, which was a master's in research on African and Caribbean diaspora. Now, his students have set up a petition, History Matters. So what I'll do, I'll put the link in the chat, and what has taken place that so far there's 8,709 people who have signed the petition, and the target is 10,000. So that is the aim for Monday. So I'm hoping it might be Monday evening, and it's really a disgrace of what's taken place. So he's an author of several books, but his latest book is called African and Caribbean People in Britain. So I will just show you the book here, which is well researched. He's a very, very thorough professor. And I'm not sure if Robin knows him personally. However, the campaign is still on and we would like the support. Now, as I said, Makonnen, this show has gone from strength to strength. You have so many fresh faces, and I apologize for tonight that I didn't come on from the very beginning. So all those authors who had come on earlier, of course, if you'd like me to stock your books, then we can have the dialogue. I'll leave my email in the chat. And also, just to say, Auntie Jean, well done. You know, your show has gone from strength to strength, and the collaboration has been absolutely fantastic. So, which I love, and I love you both, and continue doing the great works. And as I said, just authors, you're unbelievable. You know, you might write one book, it doesn't matter. You just put from the thought to the pen to the paper, and it's become real. It's a book now. You see, whether it's a physical book or audio or ebook, just keep up with the good work, because one book can always change your life. So this is what I will say and leave you with, and just continue writing, because as this show has progressed, I've noticed there's more and more authors, and you're self-publishing and you're doing great work. So keep up with the excellent work. And as I said, you can contact me by email.
All right, let's go on to Robin Walker, the Black History Man, also known as the author of the book When We Ruled. So I'll hand it over to you, Robin, so you can introduce yourself and then tell us, about the book that you've written.
Right, greetings. Can people hear this?
Yes, we can hear this.
Okay, the presentation is called When We Ruled, and all I'm going to do is introduce the book. And the best way to introduce the book is get the opinion of someone who's read the book.
So read, stuck on the block, read, sitting in the box, read. What's going on, people? This is Akala, and this week on Great Reads we have our first double bill, because I didn't feel there was a need to do these two separately. This gentleman, the author of these books, happens to be one of my many teachers, and I mean literally I went to his classes and was schooled by him on top of reading his books. He is easily the most prominent scholar of African history in Britain, certainly from the Black community.
Okay, well, my name is Robin Walker. I'm also known as the Black History Man, and my proudest achievement was passing a copy of my book to the then Jamaican Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Portia Simpson Miller OM. So if she changes her name, Ra Harshet, to Amen, I'm taking full credit. So there it is. All right, now many people are confused about this notion of Black history, because the obvious question that people want to know is, Robin, what Black history? There's no such thing. Check this out.
Anyway, name the largest single man-made structure on the planet.
Oh.
Not falling for that one.
No way. No way.
Is it going to be a 50-mile-long tunnel or a bridge or something like that?
But what we've got out of the way, because it's hanging here like a worry, is it's not the Great Wall of China.
Yeah.
Try a continent where it might be.
Europe. Okay.
Europe is not where it's
Asia.
Australia. Nor Asia, nor Australia.
North America.
Nor North America.
South America.
Nor South America.
Antarctica.
Nor Antarctica.
Arctic.
No. Russia.
Africa.
Oh. Africa!
I'm really hope Ban Ki-moon isn't watching this one.
So is it an Egyptian? Is it North?
It's Nigeria, in fact.
Oh.
It's great earthworks of Benin.
The great earthworks of Benin.
Yeah. Sometimes called the walls of Benin.
The walls called Benin.
Defensive earthworks.
Earthen walls of Benin in...
dug by the Edo people. 10,000 miles in length. 10,000 miles.
By the Edo.
10,000 miles in length.
How could I forget?
4 times longer than the Great Wall of China.
Okay.
Puny little wall.
Consumed 100 times more material than the Great Pyramid of Cheops. Took 700 years and an estimated 150 million hours of digging. Severely damaged by the British when they sacked and burned Benin in 1897.
Aren't the British? Yeah.
So what did we just learn? The largest construction carried out in pre-mechanical times anywhere on this planet Earth is a 10,000 wall defensive structure built in the Empire of Benin in medieval times. And that's the kind of history I talk about. So the Great Walls of Benin is in the Guinness Book of Records. And this is the kind of history that I share. Now, what's in the book? Well, I talk about places like the Songhai Empire in West Africa, the Nigeria region, such as the Empire of Great Benin, the Swahili Confederation, which is the East African coast, ancient and medieval Ethiopia. And then you've got the front cover. Now, the front cover, you can see that there's a Black woman looking back at you with the heading, When We Ruled. And of course, many people looking at that will be wondering, who the hell is we? And then the next question is, who the hell is she? And that woman is one of the rulers of ancient Egypt. And her name is Queen Tia. Some people pronounce the name as T or Ta. And she is in the family of, and possibly either the mother or grandmother of Pharaoh Tutankhamen. And that image needed to get more exposure. So we put it on the front cover and called the book When We Ruled. So who's we? Well, moving the story from history or his story to our story. So we're also dealing with pharaonic history, the Maroon societies, the Empire of the Moors. So you're going to get a very, very rich ancient, medieval, and modern Black history. So the whole point then of the book, now when I say we, it wasn't just me that wrote the book. I had a co-writer called Fari Supia, and I'm very grateful to the support of other people who put the book together, the person that designed the maps, Kieran Vital, etc., etc. It's going for £35. And it's available from a website called whenweruled.com, www.whenweruled.com. Now, what is the importance of this book, When We Ruled?
I am a student of history, so I gotta recommend some history books, especially because it is Black History Month. When We Ruled by Robin Walker. This is one of the dopest books. Like, I promise you, this book is so bomb. It has color pictures in it, but the thing I love most about it, let me find it. It has a chronological order of all of the pharaohs from ancient Kemet. Check this out. This is so dope.
Now, it's not very often that my work is described as dope, but it's all good. I'm not hating. So there it is. Now, the result of the book is Powerful Media hosts the annual Power List, and it was launched at number 10 Downing Street. And I ended up getting in it. So I'm on the same page as Zadie Smith, Tiny Temper, and Patrick Young. So you can see the Power List. And what got me there was the book, When We Ruled. Now, there are three reasons why we study our history. The first one is to confront limiting beliefs. You see, what you believe and what you think influences how you feel. How you feel influences what actions you take, and what actions you take influences what results you get, and what results you get influences what you believe and what you think. So it's very important that that's a powerful feedback loop. And history is one of the things that helps us think positively about ourselves, feel positively, take positive actions, and get positive results, which feeds back into positive beliefs and thoughts. The second reason why we study our history is to build a team. It's very important that I see value in you. It's very important that you see value in me. It's very important that we see value in each other. And that value will be in our shared history. And then the third reason why we study our history is so that you've got something to comfort this child. And you can see everyone's pointing at that Black boy. What Black children feel like after being taught their ancestors were just slaves. And the history that we show is that Black people's history is much more than just being slaves. But no doubt you were in the classroom, everyone was pointing at you as the descendant of just slaves, as if your history, your heritage is irrelevant, and therefore you're irrelevant. And the whole point of When We Rule is to challenge this idea of being irrelevant. Now, our history must confront our opposition. There are people opposed to Black history, heritage, and culture, and they dismiss our history, heritage, and culture, and they call it woke. And this is what a famous politician said.
It's the Guardian reading, tofu eating, wokerati.
And so you've got the Home Secretary challenging the Guardian reading, tofu eating, wokerati. And there's been a major campaign to associate Black history, both here and in the United States, with woke. And then the result is, as Cousin Lejet just pointed out, our esteemed Professor Hakeem Adi is about to get his course removed from Chichester University. And in America, you've got right-wing crazies such as Ron DeSantis trying to ban aspects of Black history, rewrite it, and so on and so forth. And so our history must confront this type of opposition. Now, when you learn your history, it makes you mentally stronger. After all, do you want to spend all of your adult life living like this? What Black people look like after work. Hope people are enjoying that graphic. I enjoyed finding it and putting it together in this presentation. You have to admit that was funny. All right, so in Parliament, there have been people stepping correctly, though, on Black history. An early day motion was tabled 17th of October 2006, and it says that this House further notes that fully integrating Black and ethnic minority history into the curriculum could be an effective tool for challenging the underachievement of ethnic minority students, and urges the government to integrate fully Black and ethnic minority history into the education curriculum and include, for example, When We Ruled by Robin Walker as part of the teaching of world history, says this early day motion 2780, table 17th of October 2006. So it's interesting to find out, well, who supported this early day motion in Parliament? Who signed it? And we've got the supporters. It was moved by Dawn Butler, but we also had support from the likes of Diane Abbott, Sadiq Khan, Vincent Cable, Sir Peter Bottomley, Jeremy Corbyn, etc., etc., etc. So people agreed and signed this early day motion. So if you want more information on Black history and African heritage, the book is called When We Ruled, available from a website easy to find called www.whenweruled.com. And that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's Robin Walker, the Black History Man. And also look out for a radio show interview and podcast coming very, very soon. I interviewed Robin Walker for the Black Book Show podcast and radio show. So that will be coming out in the future. The best way to stay up to date with everything that is happening regarding the Black Book Show is going to be by joining the Black Book Show Facebook group. So I'm just going to very quickly share my screen now. So yeah, if you join the Black Book Show Facebook group, so on Facebook, if you just simply type in the Black Books Show, it will take you onto the Facebook page. You know you're on the right page when you've seen, you know, the Black Book Show logo as the cover photo. And then all the information regarding virtual book tours, radio shows, authors that are featured on the show, this is the best place to go on. We have a radio show on Luton Urban Radio tomorrow between 8 and 10. If you're on the Black Book Show mailing list, you will receive the notification. Just a reminder as well, the Black Book Show's website, blackbookshows.com. If you go onto the section July 2023 speaker list, all of the authors that have spoken about their books on this episode of the Black Book Show virtual book tour, their name and their book links are up there. So you can literally just click on their name or the link and it will take you to their book. So we just had Robin Walker. If you click on this link here, it will then take you to where you can purchase Robin Walker's book. And the same principle applies with, you know, the other authors that have spoken on the Black Book Show as well. You just go onto the website and click on the author's link. And then if you wish to get a copy of the book, you can. Right, if you're author and you would like to feature on the Black Book Show or sponsor it, you can fill in the contact us form on the website. Just go on to contact us on the menu section and fill in your name, your email address, and leave me a message. And then I will get back to you regarding featuring onto the show. Right, in terms of the next Black Book Show, that will be happening on Sunday, the 29th, sorry, Sunday, the 27th of August, where I'll be presenting the Black Book Show again in conjunction with Auntie Jean's African Culture Market. We'll have a wide range of authors of African heritage that will be talking about their books. But as far as the Black Book Show virtual book tour is concerned, this episode, we are now coming to a conclusion. So I would just like to thank all of the contributors on the Black Book Show this episode. The Auntie Jean's African Culture Market will be staying on. So Auntie Jean, now I'm just going to give you just if you just give you a minute to just, if you want to say anything in terms of the Black Book Show before we go on to the rest of the Auntie Jean's African Culture Market.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the authors. And it started, to say, with Robin Walker, mentioned by Sister Imani. And then it finishes off with Robin Walker. I think that was beautiful. And the fact that the main theme from this Black Book Show was history. And I think that is absolutely wonderful, very inspired by it all. And if any of the authors would like to elaborate on their stories, please do contact me. And I can give you a slot where you can expand on your stories a lot longer. So yes, I shall put my details also into the chat. Robin, yes, I still owe you a phone call and a visit. And I'm loving your backdrop, by the way. Absolutely beautiful. So thank you so much, McKinnon.
Okay, I've just put the Black Book Show authors speakers list. Robin Walker's put the links to where his book's available in the Zoom chat, and I've put the Black Book Show's website link where you can see where all of the authors' books and links are available in the chat as well. So again, just like to thank everyone who attended the Black Book Show. This is a conclusion of the Black Book Show. It's ending now. So I'm going to say goodbye, everyone, but everyone is welcome to stay on for Auntie Jean's African Culture Market, which will continue following the Black Book Show. So as far as the Black Book Show is concerned, though, I would just like to say goodbye, everyone, and see you next month. Goodbye.
Thank you so much.